My name is Amanda Clemen Scott, and this presentation is for my Cultural Diversity Summer class through the University of South Dakota. Today I will be presenting on Appendix 1, the case examining Denny's. The first question I will be examining is why I think Denny's is facing continuing discrimination lawsuits and what I would recommend. It's easy to say that we want to eliminate all discrimination from the world, but we know that this isn't realistic. Unfortunately, the CEO and diversity officer will not be able to stop all instances of discrimination and can't be everywhere at once. They have gone above and beyond in their efforts, but it isn't realistic for them to stop all issues. If I were a consultant, I would advise them to keep doing what they're doing. I would tell them to terminate the employees involved in the discrimination and to retrain the other employees at the location to stop any further issues. I would also interview all employees at the location to learn if this was a culture issue or an isolated incident. An example of this, I work in human resources and know that as many policies a company puts into place, you can't always anticipate what people will do. Training and policies are great steps, but sometimes people do bad things, no matter how much work you put into it. And these things do affect the reputation of your company, and you're also responsible for them legally. This should encourage employers to be thoughtful in their recruitment efforts. I believe part of the success Denny started to see was because of the higher numbers of minorities they were hiring. When I recruit for my company, I put in effort to bring the hiring manager people with many different backgrounds. Sometimes the candidates with experience in a different field but with transferable skills bring more to the table than a traditional candidate that has the same experience as the rest of the team members. Cooper states, it is common to hear employers emphasizing their efforts to recruit and promote people of different ages, races, genders, sexuality, and abilities. And that makes sense, not only because diversity is important, particularly to young job applicants, but also because it is well documented that workplaces filled with people with different worldviews are more creative, more innovative, and generally make better decisions. The next question I will be looking at is examining Jim Adamson stating that he would fire anybody who discriminated or challenged his new policies and what that message sent to his employees. I do feel that this threat instilled fear in his employees. While you typically don't want your employees to fear you, this was the level of seriousness Denny's was facing. With the consequences of another discrimination case potentially being detrimental to Denny's, I agree with the approach to ensure his employees understood how serious he was. I believe the effect that it had on customer relations was positive. Employees were probably extra cautious from fear of losing their job. I think it's better to be safe than too cautious, so I think it was positive. His statement may have hurt employees' morale, as some employees would have truly taken this as a threat, but the employees that were upset about this statement were probably the ones most at risk of discrimination. Spicer states, what a difference a decade could make. Under Hood's direction, the company spent millions on diversity initiatives that brought legions of new minority managers, franchisees, and suppliers to a company run almost exclusively by white males. She was the nation's first diversity officer to report directly to the CEO. In my opinion, I think this shows how serious Adamson took the issues. He wanted his chief diversity officer to have direct access to him. In many other companies, this position would report into legal or HR, but he didn't want to have a middleman. He wanted them to have the ability to come directly to him. The final question I will be looking at was Jim Adamson effective in improving Denny's diversity and public image? Yes, he was incredibly effective at improving both of those things. It was essential for him not only to fix the issue, but educate others that Denny's was a restaurant safe from discrimination and where all were welcome. Summary of Moore Borak. Our text talks about everything Adamson did to eliminate discrimination from Denny's and also goes into his philanthropic efforts of the organization. After Denny's had made many strides forward, they also spent millions of dollars on campaigns to let the public know. I believe these efforts were strategically aligned with the new image Denny's was wanting to show the public. While you can be a great company doing great things, you ultimately need the customers to buy into that and let the public know what you're doing. An example, well, in my previous HR role, I led community involvement for a company. I would plan great volunteer events, and we wanted to genuinely help the community, but I also would have to notify local news and take pictures for social media. The company was able to justify the cost of these volunteer events through gaining goodwill from the community. Volunteering and being a good community partner was part of the company's core values, and they had to be able to prove that they were good community stewards. Thank you for listening to my presentation. In my outline, I have included citations for my work.